Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is the first and only podcast dedicated to all things night vision, thermal imaging, hog hunting, coyote hunting. If you can do it at night in the field with a scope, we're going to talk about it on this show. My name is Jason. I am the owner of Outdoor Legacy, and as always, I've got my co-host and executive producer, as he likes to be called, right, Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel. What's going on tonight?
Is there something, can I get promoted above executive producer? Is there anything above that?
I've been at this level
I think
that title's actually too big. I'm looking for a demotion,
I've been at this level for a long time, and I'm just waiting. I've been working hard for that promotion, but
you have been.
So yeah, if you are looking to purchase anything night vision or thermal related, hey, contact your friendly Texas thermal night vision dealer, Outdoor Legacy. You can do so at 877-350-1818. Find all the gear, everything you need, outdoorlegacygear.com. So the website's outdoorlegacygear.com, the company Outdoor Legacy, and it's 877-350-1818. We'd love your business, and this is a good time of year. I've been telling people, been on the phone, hey, there's no better time to buy thermal or find thermal than right now because nobody's hunting. It's too hot to hunt, and we're finally starting to get a lot more inventory and stock back in. Not on everything, but there's still, we got some stuff on the shelf. So
we do.
We want to talk to you.
And we do. And I had a guy today say he was looking for a particular scope. And I said, man, we still got a 2 or 3 month wait time on that. And he's like, I cannot believe that. We were talking about it. And he said, what do you think it's going to be like if I wait until October or November? And I said, 4 or 5 or 6 months. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So definitely. Well, good deal. Listen, folks, we've got a great show tonight. We've got a lot to talk about, and a very interesting topic that I think is going to be helpful to a lot of people. But before we get into that, we've got a pretty cool announcement. This is definitely a rarity for us here on the Late Night Vision Show and Outdoor Legacy, and we're going to be talking about a new pro staff member. Now, I know that a lot of companies have a lot of pro staff, and people can sign up with them and help them out. But Outdoor Legacy has always been very different in that we just we try to keep it very, very small and select, and we just don't have the time to manage a lot of different people. So it's kind of just been an invitation deal that we've done over the years. Started with Hans, and lo and behold, whoever knew that this guy would turn into an internet hog and coyote hunting celebrity that he is now, signing autographs, kissing babies. But no, so Hans was the first guy that we brought on, and you can see where he is now. He's done a whole lot for us over the years. And then a few years later, we brought on Colonel Chester Cupp, retired U.S. Army colonel, lives out in Georgia now. He has been a huge help to us. He does a lot of written reviews for us. We'll send him scopes. He is a big hog and coyote hunter out there, and his stepson, Doug Graham, hunts with him a lot, and they are big nighttime thermal hunters and night vision as well. And those guys get out there and, again, do a lot of reviews for us. If you go to the Outdoor Legacy, outdoorlegacygear.com website, you can look up there at the top, and there's a section called blogs, and that's where Colonel Cupp puts all of his written reviews for us, and they're very in-depth, very well written. So he does it for a lot of the scopes that we sell, and those are really, really good. Also, while I'm talking about him, what you need to do if you want to read some of his other stuff or see some of his videos, go to The Old Deer Hunters with an S, theolddeerhunters.com. That's his personal website and blog. He has got a lot of great information on there and things he's done from outside of Outdoor Legacy, and he's also got a growing YouTube channel, and it's the same thing, The Old Deer Hunters. You can find that on YouTube, The Old Deer Hunters. He's doing a lot of short reviews and talking about different optics and things that are coming out. So it's a really cool channel. Go and subscribe there and follow him. So moving on, I want to announce that we do have a new pro staff member. This is not something that we take lightly here. It's a very, very big deal. And this guy is a great guy. It is Patrick McClellan. He is actually one of Hans's hunting buddies, and they've been hunting together for several years, a lot. Patrick, to be honest, I talked to him about this the other day. I just approached him and gave him a call, asked him if he was interested, and I think he was really excited about coming on. And he said, "What am I going to need to do?" And I said, "You're not going to need to really do anything you haven't been doing, because this guy has been putting out so much content for us. Like Hans, he hunts almost every night of the week, and just kills a lot of hogs and coyotes, puts out a lot of good footage and videos. He's always, helping promote our stuff, and he's just been a huge asset. And to be honest, I kind of feel bad as long as he's been helping us out, and as much that it's taken this long. But Hans and I talked about it and decided that he would make a great part of the team. So we're very excited to officially announce that Patrick is now part of the Outdoor Legacy Pro staff.
Yeah, and we only made him work 2 years to do it, to get the invitation.
Yeah, only 2 years of 5-6 nights a week. That's all.
So Patrick McClellan, he lives in East Texas right now. Actually, lives not too far from me. And that's right. He started out, I guess, in thermal hunting and got hooked on it the same way that most people do. He went out one night. We had an acquaintance that were friends of each other's, and showed him a thermal scope, and he was hooked. I mean, he instantly, I think, bought one the next week. It probably wasn't that quick, but it was very quick. And he has been out hunting ever since. And he does, for the past 2 years, him and I have hunted a lot together. A lot of what we do and a lot of getting this content, creating videos, doing reviews, it's more than a one-person job. It's tough. And he's really been out there. He's helped me do a lot of this stuff, a lot of the filming, all the walkout videos that you see, of going out to different ranges. That's him walking out there, and he always does it with a smile on his face. He's more than willing to help. Very good hunter. He has a background and loves to deer hunt. So every deer hunt season, he's hard at it, but he never stops pig hunting. So you can definitely tell that pig hunting, coyote hunting is his favorite thing to do now, but he's definitely still has a passion for deer hunting. And Jason, he's been out, he goes all over the country. He's been out big game hunting in Colorado. He's got a deer lease up in Missouri. He goes up there once a year. He's got a deer lease in West Texas that I've gotten to go out on before and do some hog hunting. So he's put a lot of work in. I tell you, he's motivated me sometimes to get out and go hunt. Sometimes when I was tired and didn't want to, or if the conditions weren't perfect, I feel like I'm not a fair weather hunter, but I realize now that we've got to get very good video content. If you're going out in the rain every night, that really doesn't do you a lot of good. But he's calling saying, "Hey, where are we going tonight? Where are we going to hunt?" So he's a good guy. He's a good friend. But more importantly, he's going to make a great asset to the team. What we envision him doing right now, like Jason said, is continuing to put out content. So you can find him right now on Instagram at ETX Thermal Hunter. That's East Texas Thermal Hunter. And on YouTube, you can find him at the same thing, ETX Thermal Hunter. And if you search on Instagram, you search on YouTube, you'll be able to find him. Go subscribe. I'll put a link to all this stuff in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube. But welcome to the team, Patrick, officially. Again, it's been 2 years in the making. Like Jason said, this is not something we are a lot different than a lot of other companies that would make pretty much anybody a pro staff member. Jason, I think, and I are very picky because we know that we have to work with them and we got to communicate with them. And at the same time, they are representing Outdoor Legacy on social media, in the community. So, we want to make sure that we work with people that have like-minded values and morals. and they're not going to be on social media showing their butt, you know.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, he's a
That's
good guy.
one way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly. But good guy, good asset to the team. I look forward to working with him officially in a more official capacity, but expect to see more out of him. And maybe sometime soon we'll be able to get him on the show. I know he'd like that.
Yeah,
too.
We've been saying that about Chester.
Chester. We
For
gotta
a
get Chester
year,
first.
I know.
Sorry.
We need them both. I know. We may have to just have a big round table one night. That's what we need. There we go.
Congratulations, Patrick, and y'all be seeing more of them.
Good deal. All right, Hans, tell them about this show.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this. There's a lot to talk about. I don't even know how we're going to squeeze it all in, but I think this is one of those shows we could probably break up into 2 parts. I know we're not going to. We're going to cram it in here, but there's going to be some. I think this is a topic that's going to help out a lot of people who are, new to night hunting, or maybe they've been doing it and they're just thinking about upgrading and they're not sure what to do. So go ahead and tell them what this show's about.
Yeah, so Jason and I are constantly going through possible show topics. We got a list of it. I think a pretty good list, but we want to make sure that we're doing things that are relevant, and sometimes things that are relevant are show topics that have come up in the past, and this is one of them. So the show that we're doing today is 640 resolution worth the extra money. We all know that 640 resolution is more expensive. And if you did know that, you're about to find that out now. But 640 resolution, higher resolution scopes are more expensive than, the lower resolution scopes, obviously. But we did this show, the same exact show, 2 years ago. And I'll tell you this, you and I were talking, doing the pre-show notes and different things like that. There are so many more scopes that are in the 384 resolution range that are really pushing the boundary of quality more than what we saw 2 years ago. There's just so many more scopes. There's more companies in the market. There's so much more to choose from. And, back then, the answer, I think, was clear as far as, is 640 worth the money? This time, the answer still might be pretty clear, but not as clear as it was 2 years ago. I can promise you that.
I would say one thing to that. The 384 scopes, which is a standard resolution, they continue to get better, but the 640s do too. So it's like everything's getting better on a scale.
So before we jump into the answer to that question, is 640 worth the extra money? We want to kind of line this up. And the first place that we're going to start, Jason, is we're going to start for those that out there that don't know, they're new to thermal hunting, because I had a guy today that was asking about a 640 resolution scope and is it worth it for him to bump up. But let's do a brief rundown, and we'll just kind of spitfire this thing because we'll think of them as they come. But where is the price line between 640 and 384? What's the highest priced 384 scopes, and what's the lowest priced 640 scopes? Just to give people an understanding of as far as what the possible spend is.
Okay, so I know that you love it when I do this, but I want to back up, and I want to say, I know Hans hates
He's the backup king.
I'm the backup king. Well, I want to lay some groundwork, because I think there's going to be some guys that are watching this video that don't own a thermal scope, and right now they're already saying, what's 384 and what's 640? I don't even know what that means.
True.
And so just real quickly, I can do this in 90 seconds. There are 2 main resolution classes of thermal optics, and you have something that what we call standard resolution in the 300 class. So it can be 320 by 240 pixels, it can be 384 by 288 pixels, and just so you know, the wider number the bigger number is on the wide side. Okay. Right. So think about it like a TV. Right. The big number's on the wide side. So again, 320 by 240, 384 by 288. Those are the really common standard resolution optics. Then as you upgrade and you spend more money, you get into the 640 optics. And generally speaking, those are going to be 640 by 480 pixels. Again, this is the resolution of the thermal sensor or the thermal camera that's in the scope. There's some oddballs. There's some things like 640 by 512. Those are not super common. Doesn't really matter. It's 640 on the wide side, and that's really the important part. So
Right.
if you, that's what we're talking about. That's the difference. And 640 is we're fixing to talk about this and answer Hans's question of, what the cost is. It is going to cost more to get into the quality 640 sensors. But so if you hear this, just know anytime you're looking at optics that anything in the 300 range, 320 or 384, that's a standard resolution. And once you get to 640, that is high resolution. And as of the recording of this today, which is July 2021, there are no thermal hunting rifle scopes or monoculars on the market today that are above 640 resolution. That may be something that changes in the future. There's always been rumors of some really high resolution stuff to come. I know there's some high resolution thermal cameras out there that are being used to record some stuff. They're very expensive. I do think as time goes on, we'll eventually see some of those maybe 1280s or whatever get put into a actual hunting optic. But for now, the very top of the line hunting optics are going to max out at 640.
Right.
All right. Now, what was your question?
So the
Ask your whole question.
No,
again.
I'm glad you backed up. You didn't get us off on a rabbit trail. That's important to know. So the question is, give some examples of what 340 money gets you and 640 money gets you. I mean, models,
384
price.
money gets you.
What I say?
384. Yeah, you said 340. All right, 384. All right.
384 money. Yeah.
So standard 384 resolution. Again, we always hate saying these things, and then tomorrow something new will come out.
Right.
But today, July 2021, basically standard resolution 384. That's going to start. We're talking about scopes right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about scopes. That's going to start around $2,000. $1999. Something like the AGM Rattler as an example. The Rattler 25. That's a 384 by 288 scope. $1995. Great scope for entry level 384.
Right.
And then as we start moving up, we can get into the 2500, 2700. Then when we get to around 3125, that's the Bearing Optics Super Hogster. And as of today, that is the price point break to getting into what I call mid-grade or mid-range thermal. So, and when I'm not talking about just the price, I'm talking about you've reached a new image quality level.
Right.
So when you get to that scope, now you're lumped in with like the Pulsar Thermion XQ38s, the Thermion XQ50s, the iRay Ricoh 384, Trail 2s from Pulsar. I mean, those are kind of all these 384 resolution scopes. And right now, that price breaks over around $42.99. That's going to be the Pulsar Trail 2 XQ50 laser rangefinder model. Right. Again, that's the 384 by 288. We're still talking the same resolution of scope, but that's $42.99. At that point, you kind of get into no man's land until you get to $5,000, $49.99. And there you're going to hit the very, very popular, probably the most popular 640 high resolution scope for 5 years running, and that's going to be the Pulsar XP50. Right now, that scope is the Pulsar Thermion 2 XP50, but it started way back with the Pulsar Trail XP50. It was the same price back 2017, 2018. So anyway, this is kind of the breakover point. And then we move up in price, getting into, like the Pulsar XG50 and the iRay Ricoh. Those are around $6,000. And before you know it, we've moved into Envision and Trijicon optics that are going to, start down there in that low sixes. Well, that's like the Knox 18. Let's go to I said the Knox 35, $6,800, and you're going to go all the way up to $9,500. Now you're getting into the extreme high end. So to answer the question, and very quickly and shortly, the breakover point is really going to be about that $5,000 right now. I mean, again, that can change in the future as prices possibly drop.
Right.
But for the last several years, 5,000 is where quality 640 thermal optics start.
Exactly. So July 2021, most expensive 384 resolution scope, 4,300 basically, and the least expensive, but probably one of the most popular 640 resolution scope is the Pulsar Thermion, right now Thermion 2 XP50 hit right at $5,000. So yeah, it's a good breakdown of the price. I mean, you broke it down all the way from, you did way more than I thought, all the way from 2,000 to 9,500.
You know me, I'm going to give too much.
That's good. That's good. You got everybody a complete rundown of the lineup. So the question that a lot of people want to know is, why is 640 resolution more expensive, or so much more expensive? Which it depends on what you look like. It's not so much more expensive, but why is there a price difference at all?
Because it can be. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
no.
It's true.
No, the reason is simply it cost more to manufacture these well, I say manufacture. The cost of the thermal sensors, the higher resolution, they cost more. So the cost of those to put them in an optic, it cost more. So, I've had guys go, I don't understand that. It's it's a little piece of, circuit board with some stuff on it. Well, okay, but it's the same thing. We see it across all electronics. The higher the resolution that you go in anything, whether it's a screen or a camera or whatever, the price generally goes up. Now, what we've seen over time is that as technology improves, we get something bigger and better, and so it pushes that resolution, or pushes the price down as the resolution gets higher on the top end. And so right now, to buy a 640 thermal sensor costs more. It's really not just the manufacturers charging this, but to get a good quality 640 sensor, they're going to pay more, and then that cost is going to get passed on to the consumer. Now, trust me, if somebody could make a super high-end 640 thermal optic for $2,500, they'd be doing it, But right now, it's just not the way the market conditions are. It's just not possible. So that's why you're paying more for that. And you can see that in TV screens. You buy a 4K TV, you're going to pay more for that than you're going to pay for a 720 or a 1080 TV. It's just, that's the way that it works. It costs more to produce those thermal sensors. So that's what we've come to expect. Now, I do want to mention something. Since we're talking about resolution and we're also talking about, prices here, I'm going to go off on a mini rabbit trail. But one thing that I make a point to people is that, and Hans, you're probably going to ask a question in a minute that might get to this. So if I'm skipping ahead, I don't know what all your questions are, but I'll tell you what, I think you are. So I'm going to skip part of this, and I'm going to say one thing. So a lot of people are like, listen, why are we not seeing this price drop? You just said 640s have, started at $5,000 for several years now. It's because we're not seeing that 1280 or 1080 or whatever it is, these higher resolution sensors come in and thus force the manufacturing cost to go down. I mean, that's, again, just the way that it works. We're not seeing that. And a lot of people ask, well, why has it not happened yet? Because, 10 years ago, you could still get a 640 scope and you could get a 320 or 384. Why has nothing changed? And I think that it will be, but thermal technology is a growing thing. And you've got to think about, 10 years ago, this was a novelty. I mean, it was something the military was using, and it was just, really unheard of for the average Joe Blow to have a thermal scope.
Oh, yeah.
It's obviously becoming more common, but one thing you've got to understand, these things are still being produced in limited quantities compared to anything else that we're talking about. These things aren't like digital camera sensors that are in every single smartphone made, every $50 to, $5,000 digital camera that are being sold from one corner of the globe to the other. This is a niche thing. And so, it's just normal market conditions. The more you make and sell of something, the cheaper you can do it. And the more you'll see improvement because there's a larger and larger demand. And while this seems like a really big growing industry, and it is, it's nothing compared to the other technology that we use on a daily basis. I mean, again, just look at smartphones. Every person over the age of 16 or 18 or whatever's got one in their pocket, worldwide almost. I mean, even in many third world countries, they got a phone. Right. So that's just going to help, create the demand for improvement and push those prices down. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention on kind of why those prices are where they're at.
Absolutely. So the next kind of scenario that we run into, a lot of people talk about right now, there are more people talking about micron levels of scopes than ever before. And that's kind of the buzzword that people are using and asking about. So the questions that we get a lot, and that I get a lot, Jason, is, will a 384 resolution scope with 12 microns, will that scope look just as good as a 640 resolution scope with 17 microns? So as we all know, the lower the micron number, typically the better the picture image. The higher resolution, also the same thing. So 384 12 micron, as good as 640 17 micron.
Pause for a slight commercial break for the Late Night Vision show. Please, if you have no idea what Hans is talking about, go back. I just looked it up here on my phone. Episode 159. That's not long ago. This is episode 166. Right. Go back to episode 159. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on any of the podcast apps. It is titled Microns versus Resolution versus Millikelvin. We don't have time to get into that tonight because it is a full discussion of its own. We dedicated a whole show to it. Super helpful. If you're confused, I would say we probably should have mentioned this at the beginning. Go back, episode 159. It's a great place to start. So I'm not going to, explain what the microns are. It is very important. I highly suggest pausing this, go back, watch that, then come back to here. But to answer your question, 384 12 micron does not and cannot beat 640 17 micron, or even 640 25 micron that doesn't really exist anymore. It's something we used to see in the higher micron levels. Now, I'm speaking with a broad brush here. There's going to be somebody that's going to say, well, wait a minute, what about this? Yeah. I don't believe that there's any way for it to beat it, but I can just tell you that the scopes that we're talking about are of the brands, AGM, Bearing Optics, Pulsar, iRay, Envision, Trijicon. Just am I leave anybody out before I hurt anybody's feelings? Is that all of them? Those are the optic manufacturers that we're speaking of. And again, this is going to hold true even when you get outside of that. But you cannot do enough to overcome the resolution difference in 384 pixels and 640 pixels. Right. Now, what you could do, and this is where the caveat is, I guess if somebody really wanted, they could take a very good 640 thermal sensor, or maybe a crappy one, and they could put it in a terrible scope. They could put a piece of trash display screen. Right. They could put a bad germanium lens. They could put a very cheap eyepiece behind the display screen. You could make a bad scope with a good sensor, kind of like you could take the best engine, truck engine on the market, and just build a jalopy around it and not tighten the lug nuts down, and it doesn't mean that's going to be a better truck with a worse engine. So you know what I'm getting at. We're generally speaking here of all these manufacturers, you just can't overcome it. The microns do not mean that much resolution is a huge deal. Now, the difference in 320 versus 384, or maybe looking at a 640 by 480 versus a 640 by 512, that's not a big deal. Right. Okay, that's very, very minor. We're talking about a few pixels. You would probably not be able to see the difference in that if all other things, were equal. It's just very, very small increase. But the difference in 384 and 640 is a very large increase in overall resolution, and you will see the difference by picking up that 640 scope and looking through it.
Yeah. So I do remember Micron, and I do remember the definition of it. You remember what it is?
I know what they are. Do you know what? Is it a test?
Yeah, Micron. It's a measure of distance between pixels. So
that's correct.
The closer
the center of one pixel to the center of the other, it's the measurement of in between the two. So that's right. But that's pixel pitch. It's the measurement of the pixel pitch. But I don't want to get into all that. Go back to episode 159. Right. Go watch.
So go watch that one. That was a good show too. So
it was.
The other question, and I'm going to phrase it just the way that we get it: is there a huge difference in picture quality and clarity between 384 and 640? That's what they want to know. They don't say, "Is there a difference?" They want to say, is there a huge difference? And I don't know why they do, but they always put in the adjective huge. So
it is true.
What say
it's
you?
Huge. It's huge. Short answer, it depends. Yeah. Yes, there's a difference. There's an absolute difference. And I tell people that the average person that doesn't know anything about thermal optics, I can hand you a good quality 384 standard resolution scope and a good quality 640 high resolution scope, and you can tell the difference.
Right.
And there are times that some people can't. And when people tell me that and if I know they're looking at two good scopes, and they go, man, I just can't see the difference. I don't mean this in any disparaging way at all. One, it's probably they just don't have a trained eye for it. They haven't looked through them enough to really know what they're looking at. Meaning some people, a lot of these thermal imaging sensors, they produce a different style of image. Some of them are really bright, and the whites are white and the blacks are blacks, and it's just this bright, appealing to many people's eyes. Some people don't like it. Some of the other sensors are what I consider a little bit darker, but they have more blacks and more grays, and it almost looks a little more like a black and white video than a thermal image, a little bit. And it's a little sometimes softer and easier on the eye. Some people prefer that just a little bit if they're putting to. So when I say an untrained eye, they may just look to the image and go, oh, I like this one better. But generally, yes, you should be able to see the difference immediately. And I know this is something you're probably going to get to later, but the minute that you zoom that scope up using your digital zoom, you're absolutely going to notice. And I don't want to run over any other questions, but you will definitely be able to see it then. And again, I'm just kind of taking a run of the mill of two of these thermals. It would be completely unfair to say, let's take a bare entry level, 384 and a top of the line 640. I mean, I'm not trying to make that comparison, but even if we just compare, now this is a fair, okay? I'm not going to make anybody mad doing this. Let's take Pulsar, because they're the bread on the outside of this sandwich in our current pricing structure. They've got the Pulsar Trail 2 XQ50 laser rangefinder at $42.99, and they've got the XP50 Thermion 2 at $49.99. So that's the first 640 and the last 384. There is an absolutely noticeable difference when you just look through both of those optics at base magnification. And if you can't see it, then I don't mean this. I don't mean it's like you need to get your eyes checked, but you might need to get your eyes checked. I mean, it is absolutely noticeable. Right. I can hand that scope to my 11-year-old daughter and say, hey, look at these two. which one has the better image, which one cost more, you know what, however you want to say it, and they'll pick it out. They'll be able to see that. So yes, the quality difference is there.
Yeah. Last question. People get most common common question from people, but is base magnification and application of the scope more important than resolution? And this is something we talk about all the time, but
it is. I actually think that I think you're wrong on one thing. They don't ask this question. They should ask the question. And I think it comes from a place of not knowing. And I don't mean that, again, in any bad way. It's just you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I think, you and I push this a lot, is anytime somebody starts talking about, well, what about this scope? Well, what about that? I'm like, hang on, back up. Tell me what you're doing. Where are you at? What's your terrain like? How far are you shooting? How close you're shooting? What's your average shot? I want to get some of these things to figure out which scope is going to be best. So it is much more important to have the right magnification versus just the right, per se, resolution. So let me give a clear example, the best I can of this. Mm-hmm. Let's take, again, I'm going to pick on Pulsar. Let's take this XQ50, their 384 scope, and then let's take their XP50, which is a 640 scope. The XP50 is a 2-power base magnification. The XQ50 is a 3.5 power base magnification, even though it's 384 resolution. So here's the way the math works, and I'm going to do this quickly because we're going to run out of time. I still have a few things I want to talk about. I know we're getting short on time. The 640 XP50 at 2 power, beautiful. You zoom it up to 4 power, digital, just one time, bump it up, double your magnification with digital zoom. You've immediately cut your resolution in half. Now you have a 4 power scope at 320 by 240, okay? Let's go back. Your XQ50 natively out of the box is 3.5 power at 384 by 288. You have, and I'm going to skimp here a little bit, and I'm just going to broad brush, and I'm going to say you have just created an XQ50. Mm-hmm. Because now you've got very, very similar magnification and very, very similar resolution. Slightly higher magnification, slightly lower resolution on the XP once you've zoomed it up. So I tell guys this, I don't know how many times a week. This is a perfect example with these two scopes. If you know right off the bat, man, 2 power is not enough, I'm hunting in North Dakota, and we're never going to get a coyote under 150 yards. I don't need 2 power. And as soon as I get out of the truck, I'm going to take that XP50 and zoom it to 4 power.
Right.
Well, you just spent all that, and let's just say we're talking about the Thermions, because the Thermion XQ50 is $3,800. You just spent $1,200 to buy an XP50 and make it an XQ50.
Yeah, now, about $1,200 worth of resolution that you don't get to enjoy.
You don't at all. And so now, again, we can go back, and I don't want to get too technical on this. That XP50 is a 2-in-1. It looks beautiful up close. You got this great image quality, ID range, all these things. But if you just said 2 is never going to be enough, I'm never going to use it on 2, then you should buy the XQ50 and save yourself $1,200.
Right.
A couple quick things, and Hans, I'm going to let you, I'm going to ramble for a minute here. I've got 2 things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you close with anything that you want to say. You can have the final word. But speaking, and this is what I wanted to get into before when I was talking about the difference in 384 and 640, and people say, can you really tell the difference? There are very few things, electronics and technology related anymore in our lives that we deal with on a daily basis that have a resolution as low as 640. Okay, 640 by 480. Now that's high resolution in thermal optics, but in everything else we deal with, from our phones to our TVs to the display screens in our pickup truck, if you've got all the navigation and everything is high resolution display screens now. And so we're used to, and not I'll say display screens, but the cameras that we deal with. I mean, who's got a digital camera that's 640? I mean, that's like what the old little webcams with a wire were back in, 2000. And so that stuff's, everything we deal with on a daily basis is in high resolution nowadays. So 640 is, in the world of technology, still really low, and it's high for thermal, but it's low for what we're used to. So my point is, the difference in 384 and 640 is significant because you are gaining such a large percentage of pixels, and there comes a point of diminishing returns. You take a 720 TV versus a 1080p. Sure, we could play, the special little DVD they put in them at Walmart, and you can see the difference.
Right.
But the average guy taking it home, watching TV that he's picking up over his antenna or, normal cable, that he might not be able to tell the difference watching the Golden Girls. I mean, it might not be something you can just see this night and day difference.
Right.
But because this resolution is small on the scale of what we're used to, you are going to see the difference in that 384 by 640. And the very last thing I want to say is, I think what your original question was is it worth it? And that's the question that has to be answered. And we cannot answer that question for you on this podcast. That is something that is going to have to be determined, number one, by your budget and what you are comfortable and can afford with your finances to spend, or even if you can afford anything, you may not want to spend that. You've got to make that determination, and then if the determination is made that, man, I don't want to spend $5,000-$6,000, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
Forget 640. Buy one of these awesome 384 scopes that are so much better than they were 4 or 5 years ago. If it is in the budget, now you've got to decide, and you're like, I'll spend it if it's worth it. Somebody tell me, shameless commercial here, but you probably need to call us because, again, it's not that easy when you start comparing, again, like we just did, that 384 3.5 power versus a 642 power. There's some technical things here that need to be discussed, and it needs to come down to your shooting ranges and your terrain and what you need. So is it worth it? I would say that it might be if you're willing to spend the money, and I'm going to end this on probably something that a salesman should not say, but I've told a lot of customers this, and I'll tell you right here. If you go out with a good quality mid-range, $3,000 to $4,000 384 scope that's on the market today, and I go out with a really good $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 640 high resolution scope, and we're gonna shoot, I don't care, hogs, coyotes, coons, varmints, whatever, and we're gonna take every shot within 200 yards or less. I'm never gonna kill any more animals than you are because I have 640 than you'll kill with one of these good 384 scopes. Now, what I will do is I will be able to identify them further. I will be able to have a better image doing it. I will have, it's luxury. I mean, it's not a necessity. Now, you start talking about wanting to shoot, 250, 350 yards. We're getting way out there. Those aren't ranges that Hans and I normally hunt. But, now we start going, okay, you may need 640. You may need this to make these identifications at these long ranges. But you can go out with a standard resolution, one of these good scopes, and if you're keeping all your shots under that 150, 200 yard mark, you're not going to magically go double the number of coyotes you kill at 150 yards because you bought a $5,000 or $6,000 scope. Doesn't mean it's not worth it. Doesn't mean there's not real luxury. There's real benefits and real upgrades. I just don't want everybody to feel like if I don't own a 640 scope, I'm just missing out on life. It is very nice.
Yeah.
It is the heated and cooled leather seats, loaded out package in a truck of the thermal world. But not everybody has to have that if it's not in, within your grasp or what you want to spend.
So if hearing all this and going through all this, if you're still confused, if you still have no direction or nowhere to go, I want to invite you to go over to my YouTube channel, Hans ETX. That's Hans ETX. I've got a bunch of hunting videos. So 640 scopes, 384 scopes. I mean, you'll be able to watch them all. You'll be able to see the difference, shooting at different ranges, IDing at different ranges. So go check it out, Hans ETX. Jason, we wanted to mention something real quick about American Defense Manufacturing, and you got something coming up with them as well, too.
We do. Yeah. So this is, it's exciting news. So we've got, if you've been over to Instagram and seen the Outdoor Legacy or the Hans ETX, Instagram, you know what, while we're here, let's just talk about that. If you want to see more of our stuff, go to Instagram. That's a good place to start. Hans, HANSETX. Go over there, check him out, Outdoor Legacy Gear. You can check us out as well. And same thing, Hans is not on Facebook, but I am. It's just Outdoor Legacy Gear there as well. And if you follow those already, then what you've probably seen is some super cool American Defense rifles. We've been posting some pictures this week of these rifles. They are custom made for us by American Defense. Got Hans's logo on his, the Outdoor Legacy logo on mine. I want to talk about these. This was a very busy show. We knew we weren't going to have time on this one. So we're going to dedicate some more time to talking about these. We've been getting a ton of questions. What are these? Where did you get them? Tell us more about them. And these things are awesome. And we are going to be talking about them on a future episode in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned to the Late Night Vision show. We will be showing these things off and talking about them. And listen, we don't have much to brag about, but we're going to brag about these rifles because they, American Defense outdid themselves. We want to say huge thank you to them, and we're going to be talking about them soon.
So I'm taking mine out tonight. Hopefully I'll be able to shoot a hog with mine and have a good story for it. So thank y'all for joining us. So this has been episode 166 of the Late Night Vision show. So you want to find Jason, just like he said, Outdoor Legacy on all the socials, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, me on YouTube, Hans ETX on Instagram. Visit the website and the store if you're looking to find anything night vision or thermal related, outdoorlegacygear.com. 877-350-1818. And if you want to find all the past episodes of the podcast, you can do so on the latenightvision.show.com. It's got everything there ready to go. Episode 167 is next week, and good willing and the good Lord willing, the creek don't rise, as Jason would say. We're going to be doing the review of the Envision Halo X50. So I've been hunting with it for last 3 or 4 weeks now. And got a lot of time behind it. So we're looking forward to doing that review. But we'll see y'all next week. Stay safe in the fields. Keep making them bacon pancakes.